Hello again, boys and girls. Mr. Campbell here with another video for you. Today we talk about the metric system, and specifically we will talk about units of length or distance within the metric system. Our base unit of measure within the metric system for length and or distance is the meter. Now we can use meters to measure several things, short distances, heights, things of that nature. For example, it's possible to measure the height of a human being in meters. Michael Jordan, for example, is 2 meters tall. So anyone that is 2 meters in height or taller is quite tall. We can also use meters to measure things that are much larger than a human being. The Eiffel Tower in Paris, for example, can be measured in meters. In fact, the Eiffel Tower is 324 meters tall. We often use meters to measure distance as well, especially in sports. Think of an Olympic-sized track that's used for track and field events. The distance around an Olympic track is 400 meters, and all of the running competitions that take place on the track are measured in meters. But what about longer distances? Well, I'm glad you asked. When we measure greater distances, we do have other units that we can rely on. Two of the units which are not very commonly used are the decameter, which is equivalent to 10 meters, and the hectometer, which is equivalent to 100 meters. Now, I've shown these two measures in a different color because they are not as commonly used as some of the other measures we will discuss. Now, when we talk about great distances, such as the distances between cities, then we use a measure called a kilometer, or some may say a kilometer. Now, a kilometer is equivalent to 1,000 meters. Now, let's say we wanted to measure the driving distance from Cary, North Carolina to New York City. Well, we wouldn't want to use a small unit of measure like a meter. Instead, we use the kilometer. Now, the driving distance from Cary, North Carolina to New York City is 803 kilometers. But what about the smaller stuff? Well, again, I'm glad you asked. We do have smaller units based on the meter that we can use for measuring smaller lengths or distances. One that is not commonly used we will discuss first, and that's the decimeter. Now, the decimeter is equivalent to 1/10 of a meter. For smaller items, then we get to a measure that is far more common, and that is the centimeter. The centimeter is equal to 1/100th of a meter, and we can use centimeters to measure things like the length of a pencil or the diameter of a baseball. Now, did you know that the diameter of a baseball is 7 468 of a centimeter? Yeah, neither did I. But I know now. But what about the really small stuff? For that, we turn to the millimeter. 1 millimeter is equivalent to 1,000 meters. I'm sorry. I said that entirely wrong. 1 millimeter is equivalent to 1/1000th of a meter. That means it takes 1,000 of them to make up 1 full meter. We use millimeters when we measure really small stuff, like ants. Did you know that the average length of the typical ant is only 5 millimeters? That's tiny. But they still creep me out. That's all I have for you today. I hope you learned something. I'll talk to you later.